to Utah Fish Finder. Now, we've come to a really cool lake. This is Settlement Reservoir. If you want a place where you can go and it's easy, quick fishing, this is the place to go. It's about 15 miles from Salt Lake, but it's about a mile up the canyon road from Tooele, where I think from downtown Tooele, we're only 2 miles away. So it's easy to come here. And one of the things that you're going to find when you get here is the fish. They're mostly rainbows. It's planted regularly, and so that helps make the fishing better. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to go down and get us some fishing, see what we can do. So stay tuned for more Utah Fish Finder. Okay, now what's your name?
My name's Jason Cooney.
Okay, and where are you from?
I'm from New Zealand.
That's a little different.
Yeah, it's a long way from here.
Are you living here or
we're in the process of moving back. My wife's from Salt Lake, so in the next couple of months this will be home.
Okay. Now, how's the fishing compare with here and there?
Nothing to compare to. We fish in the sea, and it's completely different. We catch lots of big stuff and some tuna and
Oh, I'd like to get a tuna.
Yeah. So this is the first time that we've given it a go, freshwater.
And how are you doing here?
Well, I'm not sure. We've got nowhere to judge. We got 3 little trout today, sort of the size. Yeah, so it's been fun.
Probably pretty little of what you're used to.
I mean, just happy to catch some fish.
That's the important thing.
They'll grow 3 times, but I tell the stories back at home. So.
Yeah, back home the trout are.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. Now, what's your name?
My name is Austin Hay.
Where you live?
Taylorsville.
Taylorsville. That's
Yes.
just right next door to me. Okay. Do you fish here very often?
Every once in a while, yes.
How's the fishing generally?
It's good. Well, I haven't really caught very much. The first time I was out here, I caught 1 fish, and that was it. So I'm hoping maybe this time I'll get some luck.
What's your name and where are you from?
My name is Amanda, and I am from Salt Lake City.
Salt Lake City.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you come here to fish very often?
This is my first time, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
How are you doing?
It's been a little slow, but I'm being patient, and I think we'll get some big fish today.
Okay, that sounds good. What are you using for bait?
Well, using night crawlers.
Night crawlers.
Yeah.
That's my favorite. It covers so many fish. So,
Great.
And are you using on the bottom or under a bubble or?
At the bottom.
At the bottom. Okay, that sounds good. We're going to take a break now, so stay tuned and we'll be back.
Fads and Fashions, Utah's most unique boutique, located in the Valley Fair Mall.
Welcome back to Utah Fish Finder. Hey, we're here at Settlement Reservoir Campground. We've got a great RV spot. You can tell by looking around me, this is a great place. We've got trees and shade and a gentle, cool breeze. I'm liking it. Then later we'll be going down fishing, and it's just a little ways down the road, and we're going to have a fun time seeing what we can catch. We have a guest who's an expert at fishing Settlement, and he'll be here in just a little bit, and he's going to give us some pointers. I think you'll enjoy those. I have with me here Nick Lombardi. The reason I want to talk to him is because he fishes Settlement Canyon a lot, and so in my mind that would make him an expert. He knows about catching fish there, and I want to find out what he's doing. And so I think that'd be a good opportunity to talk to you.
Okay.
Now, how long have you been fishing Settlement?
I've been fishing it ever since I've lived out here. My first time actually was in March 2010, but I was still living in Murray, and I came out here for a trip out there, and I actually liked it out here. And ever since I've been out here, I like coming out here because it's close, it's beautiful up here. I've had a lot of luck this year.
Oh, that's good. How often do you fish?
As often as I can. Just if I have a little bit of time, I'll come out. Most of the time I'll come out in the morning, but lately I've been coming out in the evening where it's been so hot, just to avoid the heat.
What size fish do you normally catch?
Well, my personal best I caught was a 13.5 inch rainbow trout. Usually I catch about anywhere between 8 to 11 inches. That's about on average what I've usually caught. Just little planters.
And what kind of bait seems to work best for you?
Depending on the time of the year. When I first came here after ice off this year, I caught them on night crawlers, but lately I've been catching them on power bait.
Okay. And I understand you were here when someone caught a monster fish out of the lake?
Yes, it was a large, I'm guessing about 17 to 18 inches. It was a tiger trout. He caught it on a worm, just on a little snell hook. He just dunked his line down in, got a bite and pulled it out. Really fat.
That's frustrating. See somebody do that.
Well, I was actually pretty happy. I've done really well myself, and so it was actually really exciting for me to see him pull that out.
Okay, that's cool. So what seems to be the best time of year to fish here?
Well, so far this year it's been any time, because it's been really good. Every time I've come, I've only been blanked twice. And the whole time I've been here, I've probably been here about 24 times so far this year.
Okay, now I find that an interesting term. You've only been blanked twice?
I've been skunked twice.
Skunked
twice? The old skunked.
I like your term, blanked. That's a little better than being skunked.
Yeah. Skunked kind of sounds a little nasty if you think about it, if people don't know what it means.
Yeah.
But anglers like you and me, we know what it means. But,
that's for sure. I've had that happen to me a few times.
Oh, I've had it happen to me more than I care to admit.
Now tell me, the lake is really down.
It is.
How is that affecting the fishing?
Well, since I know it's been going down quite a bit since about late June, early July, and it's still been going pretty strong. But the last time I was here, I only caught the one fish. He was about, I would estimate about 9 to 10 inches long, and that was all I had. I didn't really have any other strikes. So it may be slowing down. Okay,
now you told me that you came back and were surprised to see an island?
I was. I came down, and normally I'm just over there by the peninsula, just on the south side, just right down below the gate. And I came here, it had been about 2 weeks since I'd been here prior, and the island wasn't even out of the water yet. It was still up pretty high, and then I came and was surprised by it.
Yeah, I was surprised by it too, because I came here and I'm looking at the lake, and it doesn't look like what I thought it should look like. But of course, maybe it kind of explains how the luck goes if you're fishing on the right side of the island, or fishing on the island. That would be casting out, and it'd be kind of shallow where you were.
I would imagine so. But I've also noticed that Settlement's a little bit more full than Vernon Reservoir. As we noticed, Vernon, last time I was out there, I estimated about 25 to 30%.
Wow.
It was really low, really scary. And Vernon's a bit bigger of a lake, but it had less water in it than Settlement has right now.
Yeah, that's
almost looked like it was getting ready to dry up.
Yeah, I've kind of been wondering how this drought that we're having is going to affect all these rivers, because or all the lakes, and if we don't get some good rain or snowfall, what's going to happen next year?
It makes me wonder. It makes me wonder if there's really going to be much of a lake to fish at, no matter where you go. And my trip up to East Canyon this year was fairly low up there too. It was actually very scary to see that. I usually don't see it like that. Usually when I see it, it's almost up to full. But we didn't get much snowfall up in the mountains this year either. We got more of it down here than we did up there.
Yeah, that kind of affects things a bit.
It really does. So we didn't have much runoff to fill them up.
Yeah. So what are your future fishing plans?
My future fishing plans, well, as long as I'm still catching them, I'm still going to keep coming. Last year I only came here at least a dozen times and only had one little fish to show for it. And this year it's been a lot different. It's like a complete 180. I lost count of how many fish I've pulled out this year.
Okay,
I've kept a fair amount of them, and I've also put a fair amount of them back.
Could it be the low water is making them bunch up?
That could very well be. they don't have as big of an area to go for, so they're going to bunch up a little bit more as the water comes down. So they'll gather as the water shrinks.
Okay, that would make some nice fishing.
It really would, yeah.
Okay, well, I've sure enjoyed talking to you.
Same here.
Finding out a little bit more about settlement, because you have a lot more experience than I do. And so that's been fun, and I guess the next thing we need to do is go catch some fish.
Sounds good to me.
Okay.
Alrighty.
Well, thanks a bunch.
Thank you.
Don't just sit on your tackle box. We want you to watch our next segment, and we'll show you what to do with the stuff in your tackle box.
Welcome to the Rocoto Peruvian Restaurant in West Valley, Utah, where the best rotisserie chicken is in town. Delicious Peruvian food and low prices. Our natural chicken and our recipes are made fresh daily. We marinate our chicken with herbs and spices. Brown and juicy on the outside, perfection on the inside. To learn more, call or visit the Rocoto Peruvian Restaurant today.
Now, we're going to talk a little bit about the common ways of fishing for trout.
My favorite fish.
That's what I
Yummy.
thought. They are good.
Yes.
Now, we see a lot of people fishing for trout, and sometimes they don't do things right, or they just don't know how to do them. And so we want to talk about the different ways of doing it. The first way is to fish on the surface.
Right.
Or
With
near the surface.
bubblers.
And so you can float your hook.
And this one you put water in and leave a little air
Yeah,
bubble.
and it'll cast a long
Yeah,
ways.
exactly.
And then we have a hook here.
That goes on top.
And the most common thing to do with this is put a worm on it.
Right.
And worms work really good. And one of the things I like about worms, almost all fish like worms.
Yeah.
So very effective. Now, another thing that people do is when they fish off of the bottom, a lot of times we'll see them using a treble hook like this. If I can get it down there.
I will help you.
Wow.
It's a little
It's
tricky.
jumping all over the place.
There.
So we do
See?
a treble hook, and a lot of people like to put a little sinker on there and just cast it out and let it go to the bottom.
Right.
Now, one of the things we observed at Settlement was they have crawdads.
Yeah.
And so the crawdads come along and eat your bait.
So what can you do?
You can float it. Even if you're using a worm, you can still
Or
use a
marshmallows.
piece of this stuff.
These are stinky
is-
marshmallows.
Stinky marshmallows.
Fish like it stinky.
Yeah. She doesn't want to handle them. They're very.
I don't mind seeing
very
them. I'll
strong.
touch them. It's okay.
And then you can put your worm on, and
And
then
then you put that on.
latch on a little.
And it'll float.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's a good way to keep your bait off of the bottom. And you don't want it on the bottom. You have two problems. It could be crawdads. Another problem you have is moss. And a lot of these lakes during the summer, especially the late summer, will have a lot of moss in them.
Which disguises the bait, right?
Oh, it
Yeah.
does.
And then fish can't see it to
Trout
eat
stay above the moss.
Right.
They don't go digging in
it.
it.
Exactly. So,
this is
float that.
another thing that helps. Okay, now, another common problem that I see is you're trying to fish off the bottom and you got a treble hook. Now, a treble hook is made for using something like power bait.
right.
Power bait is a very popular thing to fish with, and I would say probably the most popular trout bait.
What is power bait? Do you have it? Oh.
I got some power. This is red power bait.
And pink. Come on. That's hot pink.
Pink. Oh, you could call it pink.
It's hot pink.
Yeah, hot pink.
It's beautiful.
It's pretty good. Okay, now to get this out, I like to use the back of my fingernail.
Okay.
I'm going to get messy doing this.
Do it.
Okay. and you get it on the...
It's like Play-Doh.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Get it on the back of your fingernail, and then you take your hook, and you just kind of clean that off your fingernail and press it around
Disguise
your
the hook.
You want to cover it all,
Yeah.
and you get a little ball
No
like
bling
that.
bling showing. Good job.
No bling bling. Now, one of the things...
I like bling bling.
Bling bling's good, especially if it's a lure.
Right.
One of the things about this, though, that a lot of people don't do, and it's kind of important, is you need to make sure you've got enough power bait on there to float your hook.
Okay.
And so before you cast it out, just stick it in the water and see if it
See
floats.
if it floats. That's a great idea.
And
Pro tip.
if it doesn't float, then you're going to have to add more power bait.
Okay.
Okay, now the second problem I've seen is that people will use too big of a treble hook.
Oh,
And of course, the bigger the treble hook, the more it's going to weigh, the more
for sure.
stuff you
Harder
use.
it'll keep float.
But I've seen instances where you do a big ball of power bait, and they're either not going to bite it, or the little fishies will come along and
They'll nibble it, yeah.
And then you'll lose your power bait. And you go, what happened?
Yeah, and you won't catch fish, which is the most important thing.
That's
This
right.
is the objective here, people.
Yes. So make sure you use a small one.
Okay.
And I use a fairly small hook, and you can see how small the power bait is.
Right.
And this is probably closer to the size of a salmon egg. And so they kind of take to that.
Yeah. Plus, it's pretty.
Yes.
Nice, pretty
I was
color.
at one place, it was Settlement Reservoir,
Yeah.
and I was fishing with power bait, and there were some old guys around the bay from me,
Right.
and they were catching fish. And I'm watching them, and what am I doing wrong? So finally I went over to talk to them. They says, oh, the amount of power bait you're using is way too big. And they gave me a hook even smaller than that, little
And they
tiny
showed to
thing.
use it smaller.
And then they says, use enough, and rolled it up into a ball about the
Okay.
size of a pea.
Right.
Once I did that, I started catching fish.
So that was a good tip that you got from the local fisherman?
Yeah.
All right.
I was just using too much power bait.
See, that's why we go out and find you to interview you, because we need your knowledge.
Yes.
So if you see us, interview with us.
Yes, definitely.
Because we like it.
Okay, now there's one other trick.
Okay.
A lot of times you'll see somebody with a little tiny hook made for salmon eggs.
Right?
Well, you can see salmon eggs aren't very big.
No.
See how small those guys are? And another trick is to take your salmon eggs and take a regular bait hook, and then you start threading them onto the bait hook.
Almost like beaded jewelry.
Sort of like beads. Yeah, and I'm having trouble getting it in there.
There
we
you go.
Okay, so you'll...
I had faith in you. I knew you would work it out.
I'm glad.
You are the Utah fish finder, after all.
And so you get them like this,
There you
and
go.
you thread them onto your hook. And so you can put, depending on the size of the hook, you can put 3 or 4 or 5 on there.
And the fish will love it because they like to be fashionable.
Okay, and there you have your hook covered with eggs.
That's nice.
And I don't know what it is, but that seems to do more to attract the fish than just a single egg.
Especially my favorite trout. Okay.
Okay, so that's a good way to do your salmon eggs.
All right.
Okay, we've pretty much covered it.
Yep.
These are the main ways of doing it. And you'll see fishing reports that will talk about the standard way of catching trout. Well, they're talking about these things.
Yes, these things right here. Thank you guys for joining us, though. We really appreciate you, and we hope you enjoyed it. Have a good time and go fish.
Yes.
In case you can't tell, I'm getting a little bit hungry. So let's go to the kitchen and find out what they're cooking.
Welcome to the Rocoto Peruvian Restaurant in West Valley, Utah, where the best rotisserie chicken is in town. Delicious Peruvian food and low prices. Our natural chicken and our recipes are made fresh daily. We marinate our chicken with herbs and spices. Brown and juicy on the outside, perfection on the inside. To learn more, call or visit the Rocoto Peruvian Restaurant today.
Kitchen with Rich, and we've got a great recipe for you today. This is one that you're going to really enjoy because it makes camping easy. And so we're going to do a special recipe, fish and pancakes. Now you may not think they go together, but the way we do it, you'll love it and your kids will love it. Now here's what you're going to need. You're going to need fish. Bluegill worked really good for this dish. And I like to use Krusty's pancake mix. It has everything in it that you need. All you have to do is add water. You want to simplify your life, especially when you're camping. So we're going to use some Krusty's. Rather than using flour, I'm just going to coat our fish with some pancake batter. You don't want to have to carry something extra like fish and pancakes. Okay, now we got our fish ready. Okay, now whenever you're going to fry something, you want a hot pan. That makes it so that it forms a little bit of crust on your fish doesn't stick, and it doesn't absorb as much oil. So that's something really important. Now, we're getting our pan hot here. We can test it by putting a little flour in it. You can hear that. It is ready to go. There. Now let's brown our fish. It won't take too long. That's one thing I like about fish. It doesn't take long to cook, and you cook it until the transparency in it goes away and it turns white and solid. Okay, I think our fish is about done. You can see it starting to turn brown around the edges. So let's turn this puppy over. Wow! You know, I may cooking in your kitchen, I'm a mess. Oh, doesn't that look good? So we'll finish cooking that. Okay, next thing we want to do, and we'll do it while that's cooking, we want to mix our pancake batter. And we just put a little water in there and mix it around. One thing you need to be aware of is when you're doing your pancake batter, it should be thin, and if it's a little bit lumpy, that's not a problem. Let's see how we're doing here. You want to kind of have it about a consistency, some heavy cream, or another way to describe it is about the consistency of paint. But that works. So you can see what we got here. Just a little bit runny, but kind of thick. I think our fish is about done. So let's take our fish off. We'll put it in our pan. And the next thing we want is, before you put your pancakes in your pan, you want the pan to be hot. And I like to use some vegetable spray on it rather than using oil or anything like that. And it really doesn't need it. This just kind of ensures that it's not going to stick. So let's get a little spray on there. Now, let's pour some batter on there. Oh, that sounds good. You can hear it sizzling a little bit. Now, that's one of the things you want when you cook it, is you notice how it's starting to bubble up. And that is a really good sign, because as it starts to bubble up, that means it's cooking and it will be done on the inside of it. And then it will get a little dry around the edges. And so as it thickens up there, we'll get it flipped over. Let me go just a little bit longer. We want to have it brown, not white. Oh, doesn't that look good? Just right. Okay, now we're going to add this to our fish to make our really great combination here. Okay. Now. Good. Okay, now here's the trick that we're going to do. This is our special ingredient, and you would expect to put it on pancakes. You might not expect putting it on fish and eggs. That makes a great breakfast. You're going to love it. Your kids are going to love it. They'll go nuts over this. And so this is a really easy way to fix a camp breakfast, and not a lot of work to it. And now when you go camping, you know what to fix for breakfast. Go out and have yourself some fun, and we're going back to the show. We had a great day here at Settlement Reservoir. It's a great place to come fish, to relax, have some fun. And we talked to people who were doing that. Some of them catching a few fish, some of them catching a bunch of fish, even me catching some fish. So it's got to be a great place to come. Now, we want you to come back to Utah Fish Finder next week, and in the meantime, go find those fish.